And we're live. What's up, everybody? As you can see, we got a little bit of a unusual setup here. It's an in-person interview with a longtime friend, Inon Dan Kehati.
Shalom Aleichem.
Great
How
to
you
be
doing,
speaking.
Adar?
I'm good. It's been some time.
Indeed,
Yeah.
long time.
So you may be wondering what I'm doing here, friends with a Jewish supremacist. The same reason I have Islamist friends and anti-Semitic friends. We're all just people. But I think that you would actually be surprised by Enon's views. They're unusual, they are different, they are triggering to many, but inspiring to others. And if I were to describe him briefly, and he'll get into this, and we certainly have our fair share of disagreements, but he has a vision for peace on the land that I think is more likely to appeal to the Israeli right, which is almost the entire country, right? Often when those of us on the left talk about peace, it's seen as unrealistic and naive and doesn't land to much of the Israeli population. So with all our disagreements, I actually think Yinon plays an important role for talking about peace in a way where the majority of the population would be more open to hearing what he has to say. How do you like that introduction?
Hey, I mean,
Pretty good, right? Now, he just wrote a book, Shma Ishamael. Let's start by what is the title?
the title is a word game on the Jewish Shahada. You know, when we say Shma Israel, when we pray, when we put tefillin, and we cover our face and pray to Hashem. So this is Shma Ishmael. Ishmael is the name of the biblical name of our cousins. Some of them are actually brothers, the Arabs and the Muslims. And Ishmael is the second or the firstborn of Abraham, and we are the secondborn of Abraham, Isaac, Yitzchak. So it's in a way kind of to say to the Muslims what we as Yitzchak have to say to them. And more than that, it's also, and this is the secondary title of my book, this is how we're going to learn from our enemies who we truly are, which means that we indeed have something to learn from them, but they also have something to learn from us.
Okay. Well, I think it's a great name. And I don't know if it seems awkward, but I'm going to need to turn from looking at you to looking at the screen because we have comments and stuff coming in. It's a new setup. So Shma Ishamael, and there will be a link to that in the description. So I guess we could maybe start, Rajia, saying you said he's a Jewish supremacist. Why are you platforming racists? I don't know how much. Maybe we'll leave the Q&A to the end. I don't know if Inon is a racist. Actually,
You don't know? You still think that
I'm unsure. I'm trying to figure it out, but I don't think he's a racist. But I would platform a racist. My rule of thumb is you could platform anybody as long as you give pushback on ideas that you believe to be dangerous. It's okay to supremacists exist, racists exist, bad ideas exist. To ignore them doesn't make them go away. It's better to engage with them. Now, to platform somebody and not give any pushback, that's irresponsible. But as long as there's pushback, I not only do I not see an issue with it, I think it's actually net positive for society to engage that way.
Can I say something regarding
Sure, yeah.
the title? What makes me a Jewish supremacist? I will tell you what. I believe that only Am Israel, only the state of Israel, only Jewish sovereignty has the legitimacy to rule from the river to the sea. Yes. However, or maybe more so, or also, I also believe that we have an obligation also to include the non-Jews in certain conditions, of course, to be part of Israel. Something that we have failed to do, and something that Zionism, also describing in my book, Zionism have to upgrade itself in order to include also the non-Jews as part of Israel. We will talk about how, and maybe also maybe the why we should. But I think that this is what, and I'm not sure, to be honest, if most of the people in the right wing actually will agree with me, because most of the Israelis in the right don't even want to do anything to do with Arabs and definitely Palestinians, especially after October 7th.
Right.
And I am, even though I cannot vouch for myself, I am committed to peace. But this is also another question: what is the definition of peace? Is peace means that I can give up on something that my forefathers were praying towards and were committed to during 2,000 years? I don't think I can. Does peace mean that Muslims and also Palestinians can give up on something that is very important to them? Same way. What I mean by peace is how we find where the true aspirations of both our people can emerge and create a bigger story, a bigger narrative that contains both truth in a way that doesn't step on each other.
So one state from the river to sea that is Jewish sovereignty,
Mhm.
and that's essentially why you're okay with me using this title, because that is a form of Jewish supremacy. It's Jewish supremacy over the land.
I mean, what is Jewish supremacy? I mean, Arab supremacy. You have many Arab countries and also Christian or European countries that they have also their own form of unique supremacy, right? That they want to maintain their rule, their sovereignty, but nobody called them supremacists.
Right. So I think that probably a lot of Arab nations are supremacist. The one difference is that here in the land between the river to the sea, 50% of the population are non-Jewish. And these aren't non-Jewish immigrants that came to work like you have in the UAE, where the way they could see it's like, yeah, this is Arab land, but we're going to give people working permits. Obviously, they're not going to have the same rights as native borns. I'm not even saying whether that is the best system or not, but it's fundamentally different than one nation that's a Jewish nation where 50% of its inhabitants are native to the land, yet they are not at the top tier. So how do you reconcile that?
This is considering the theological conflict that we have. And I don't know how much you view the theological, the religious conflict between Islam and especially Judaism is relevant here as the root of the conflict, but I do. And I think that why we fight until today and very viciously is because anti-Zionist Islam, and I make a differentiation between Islam and anti-Zionist Islam. What is anti-Zionist Islam? It's the form of Islam that abolish our legitimacy of Torah. Let's say that our Torah is corrupted. Let's say that we are not the children of Israel from 3,000 years ago. Let's say that there was never Jewish kingdoms here. Let's say that there was never a temple. And say that the covenant of Allah, of Hashem with us is canceled, which is not less than heresy. Now, of course, for someone probably like you, because I know you as a friend, we know each other for many years, and maybe this is the place to say that we actually did a lot of activism together.
Sure.
To connect between Israelis and Palestinians in the most ridiculous places in the land.
Sure.
Not too many people know, but maybe your audience know.
But the whole Jericho?
The Jericho, for
Jericho
example.
situation. I don't know if I've ever spoken about that. We could share that.
It's in my book. So.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to say here is that if Muslims claim that indeed they are loyal to their own holy book and the religious element is very effective in their identity, how can they say that God canceled his promise to another people? And by the way, they put a lot of emphasis to the meaning of the promise of Allah to them, to the Muslims. So if they put indeed the same amount of emphasis to the promises of Allah to them, when they go against the promise of Allah to us, they actually go against Allah, right? I mean, does it make sense in a rational way, even though it's religious?
Yeah, I mean, the reason I don't give too much weight to religion is just because I see how flexible and how much is up for interpretation. So you have some, let's take outlier examples, but you have some Muslims that their interpretation of the Quran is that this is Jewish land. right?
Can I cut you here a second?
Let me just give one more data point, and then you have some Orthodox Jews that their interpretation of the Torah is that they should be anti-Zionists.
You're right. You're very correct. I agree with what you say very much, and it's indeed a matter of interpretation. But what we are facing here, what the Zionist movement face here, is an interpretation of the Quran and of the religion of Islam that abolishes the Jewish story, the Jewish Torah, the Jewish connection to the land, the Jewish, the promise of Allah to the Jews over this land. And that's not less than heresy. And I will add also, look, for example, you have the same Quran.
Mm-hmm.
Someone in the Emirates will interpret, rightfully so, in a way that can include the Jewish story in their narrative, even politically.
Correct.
But the same Quran in Gaza is 180 degrees. They say that we are the sons of the monkeys and pigs. By the way, sons of monkeys and pigs. You know why Muslims call us monkeys and pigs? Why the Quran referred to us as that?
Why?
Why do you think?
Well, sons of monkeys is really that has an evolutionary basis. Not quite sons of monkeys, but the same common ancestor.
It's a derogatory term, right?
Yeah.
But why? Why did in the Quran
itself? Well, monkeys could be seen like a primitive human-like thing.
Let me tell you something.
And pigs are.
No, you're not in that direction.
Okay.
Because that was the criticism of Prophet Muhammad towards Jews who didn't keep the Shabbat and the command that they received from Allah. So that's actually, as a believer Jew, that's a criticism I can accept, because if the Quran and Prophet Muhammad want me to keep my commandments from Allah, that's not a bad criticism. Actually, that's good criticism.
Okay, interesting. But so that means I'm the son of a monkey and a pig.
Maybe you. But,
right. At least half of us. But doesn't that kind of speak to my point that religion is very much up for interpretation and connected to some greater cultural and environmental conditions? In the UAE, there's no ethnic and national conflict with us. They're living good lives. They're looking to strengthen ties with other regional actors.
And they're practicing Muslims too.
They're more Muslim than the average Palestinian. They're on average more religious, right? Now, Palestinians who are in an ethnic and national conflict with us, for them, they find interpretation in their religion that strengthens their conviction in fighting us. But we do see Christian Palestinians fighting us as well. And we do see Muslim Israeli Arabs, who some of them join the IDF. So because religion is so very much up for interpretation, we see vast difference from culture to culture. How much weight and importance should we put on these books and what they say?
Let me try to give you an example of why it's important, okay? The main conflict, as I said, is because of religion, but it means that, okay, I will give you an example. I was talking to this Muslim woman in Omi TV, and I uploaded this video to my Instagram channel, YouTube coming soon.
Link in description for
Jewish Dawah. I assume people already know where. And I asked her 3 simple questions. I asked her, can Jews live under Muslim rule? She said, of course. Yeah. It's very natural for them to take care of Jews, punish Jews.
I saw this one, yeah.
Punish Jews, be merciful towards Jews, but they are on top and we're on the bottom. Ask her another question. Do you believe in equality? She said, yeah, of course. Then I asked her the 3rd question. Can Muslims live under Jewish rule? Hell no. Like a shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
That's because they have supremacy complex over us. We supposed to be under them. That's the way that kind of Islam view us.
Mm-hmm.
So even if, Adar, and I will ask you this question and as a statement as well, even if there's going to be a 2-state solution, in one of these states going to be Israel like it is today, where Muslims going to live under Israeli rule, the conflict is not going to end. Because if you do not solve that contradiction, that conflict, that this interpretation of Islam cannot accept Jewish rule anywhere over Muslims, you will never solve the conflict. Do you agree?
Right, but what we're seeing is we do have I think at least 17% of Israel's population are Muslim, and not 100% of that segment of the population has accepted living under Jewish rule, but we've seen a significant portion of them accept it, and this is with a society that is deeply distrusting and racist towards them. They don't feel fully part of society, and we've still managed to integrate them into society quite well. They're Muslim, nonetheless. So,
if I may, regarding this, maybe this is going to be a ceasefire or hudna, but it's not going to be the end of the war. Think about it. Without abolishing the interpretation that Muslims cannot live under Jewish rule anywhere, by the way, in the land, doesn't matter if even Tel Aviv going to be only Tel Aviv, sovereign Jewish state, but they will not accept that.
Right, but so the interpretation that comes just through like stronger cultural ties, and for example, the reason why today most Christians, most Jews, most Muslims don't support slavery, even though the Holy Book says that you could own slaves, was simply a process of enlightenment and humanist values. And it wasn't, it didn't happen overnight, but we evolved, our society evolved, and we still held on to our religion. So I don't know if we need to look at it as we need to abolish this. We just need to create environmental conditions that are favorable towards religious people not interpreting their text in a way that is supremacist or harmful towards others.
You still didn't answer, I think, the main challenge here, and I think that you tried because you are not coming from a deeply believing background. I don't think you understand how deep it is and how effective it is in the politics of our neighbors and enemies. By the way, when I say neighbors, part of them are enemies, part of them are future allies, for sure. By the way, who like me knows them?
I mean,
wait a second.
Yeah.
Who like me knows them? And, with all the years of activism in the home, I mean, I miss Palestinians, I really do. I actually learned a lot from them. But my Jewish identity, as I describe in my book, 118 shekels in the stores. In Hebrew. In English, it's going to be later.
And real quick, Elias, you're asking, will we take call-ins for questions? Yeah, we will be doing call-ins from Discord, though, so join Discord. Anyways, yeah.
So I'm just saying.
So you miss Palestinians because you used to since October 7th.
I really see them something very important in my identity as a Jew. For me, the peace doesn't mean to live in separation from them. I'm very comfortable to live with them. When I say to live with them, yeah, I believe that in certain conditions they should live in Tel Aviv and in Jerusalem and in Haifa, but we also need to have the conditions to live in Gaza and in Ramallah and in Jenin. And I think that most Jews do not put that as a demand, like most Palestinians put it as a demand. And in a way, I kind of respect the Palestinians more than I respect the Jews regarding that. When I met Palestinians...
But you could understand, I think it's easy to understand why it's a much stronger demand from them, because they're 1 to 2 generations removed from living in those lands, whereas most Jews were 1 to 2 generations removed from living either in Europe or Middle East.
Yeah, but where's the Jewish story? You know that our Jewish story begins in Judea and Samaria. People without a story is not a people.
I think it begins actually in Iraq.
Yeah, you can go back, but when we emerged to a nation, and we became a nation with tribes, with hierarchy, with political institutions, with a kingdom, with prophets, with judges, we have unique
connected to the land.
Not only connection to the land, but we have unique national identity. Actually, before the exile, we had our rooted national identity that we haven't yet restored. And I see the Palestinians in a way as kind of the stick in the hand of God to remove from us the elements of exile that we absorbed, especially in the West. And this is their role on us, but we also have a role on them. We are like the baseball bat in the hand of God to remove from the religion of truth the elements of lie and falsehoods. Yes. And I think it's very important to say, because if we believe in truth, in justice, and in peace, truth is something that your truth is different than my truth, right? But you have some things in your story that are true, that are factually correct, right? But so do I. But the big truth is when your correct and actual and factual elements of the truth connect with mine, we create a bigger truth. Justice is that Palestinians have narrative of justice that need to be fulfilled, but also we. It cannot be only their justice and not our justice, for example. And peace, what does mean peace? In Hebrew, it's very it's easier to explain because peace means holistic or completion, which means that we have a lot of pieces of puzzle, and each and every part which is different and unique can find its way in the big picture, and then we create the whole picture. And that's the meaning of peace. It means that you need to be you, I need to be me. I do not want you to be me, and you do not want me to be you, but we accept each other the way that we truly are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the meaning of peace that comes from unity and not uniformity. And unfortunately, our neighbors are very based on uniformity. Even the opinions there. I mean, you probably disagree with them, even though I think, can I say that we both went to Nas Daily like 8 years ago?
Yeah, we went to his house for Ramadan iftar or something.
Right,
like
we've
that.
been to a lot together actually in activism.
Okay. I forgot you were there then. Yeah,
I just want to say that Nas Daily said recently, he shared the story that said, and it was very true. By the way, I don't agree with everything that Nas Daily says or does, but he said that in Israel, 2 Jews create 70 opinions. In Palestine, 2 million Palestinians create one opinion. And that's the difference.
Yeah, which is bullshit. But
it's not bullshit.
It is bullshit.
It's relatively true, if you ask me.
It's taken it to an extreme. You could say, if you wanted to, you could say, 10 Jews, 11 opinions, 10 Palestinians, 8 opinions. Okay, so there's a difference, but don't.
You cannot deny that
2 million, one opinion.
You cannot deny that there's suppression of freedom of speech and challenging to their own government.
That's fine, but they have multiple
Gaza.
political parties. They have multiple clans that compete. They have different NGOs that compete. It's not a monolithic society that
Can
doesn't
you have
have.
a Palestinian with a narrative that go against the anti-Zionist narrative and speak in public and live there? I don't think so.
You have a few, yeah.
A few.
Yeah.
A few.
Some are Sinjawali,
Where does he live?
East Jerusalem.
In other Israeli jurisdiction.
Well, yeah, that's true. He said he's wanted in Ramallah, but he still goes sometimes.
You prove what they say.
No, but hold on. So, but there's, if you're talking about,
You know how many
hold on.
You know how many Palestinians I had to blur their face and distort their voice just because they were with me in the same picture.
I don't think we have a disagreement here. It depends on, I guess, depending on how it's framed. If you're talking about their freedom of expression and diversity of opinion, certainly on a systemic level, so they're much more likely to get interrogated and arrested by the PA if they say the wrong thing. They're also more likely to get arrested and interrogated by Israel if they say the wrong thing. And also there is more societal pressures. So not just on a systemic level, but societal pressures. But it's not true that there's not diversity of thought. So yeah, if you want to compare it to us, a liberal nation that has pretty good free speech laws, sure. But I just didn't like the characterization saying 2 million Palestinians, one opinion.
Yeah, you're right. Not 2 million, 1,800,000.
2 million. I'm happy to say 2 million Palestinians, 1 million opinions. It's just it's. I get what he was saying. It's a cute quote, a point, but it over exaggerates it and almost it oversimplifies to the point where you would think that Palestinian thought is entirely monolithic. And there's
I'm not saying that they're entirely monolithic.
There's
a
diversity.
The uniformity element is much more dominant in their society, and I don't think that I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I think I don't disagree actually. Someone's asking, what is MB? His shirt says Jewish Dawah. What does Jewish Dawah mean?
Dawah is an Islamic term. It means to invite the Muslim believer to become closer to the religion of Islam. It's like a kiruv in Hebrew, like to get them closer, the believer closer to their religion. So Jewish Dawah is in a way like Shma Ishamael, but I as a Jew want to tell to them to make them be, in my opinion, better Muslims. I don't want them to be Jewish. I just want to give them a different interpretation regarding Islam that I believe, and I don't know if I'm correct or not, obviously, that will lead to peace and to the end of the suffering for people from both sides. And I totally recognize that their side suffer much, much more. I don't want to see any children die. I mean, I think that the blood of their kids is not as less as precious than the blood of our kids. And the children deserve better future. They deserve to live. They don't deserve to live, especially under a dictatorship that usurps their future and plants seeds of poison in their hearts and minds. And as an Israeli Jew, I see these kids as part of my land. Yeah.
No disagreement there. Inshallah, as they say. So, one state from the river to the sea. What does that mean for the status of Palestinians? Are they equal? Do they have voting rights? What's the difference between their rights and our rights in that solution?
Okay, I suggest the solution begins first in providing them three options, especially regarding now the hostility and the war and the animosity. Option number one, if they want to fight us, bring it on. That's unfortunately what happens now in Gaza. Option number two, if they don't want to accept this type of system or our rule in this land, they are also free to leave to any Arab country, any European country. They can, have the exit door and go out. But option number three, if they accept our rule in certain conditions, they should live with us with the same constitution, the same rights, and also the same obligations, by the way. Because if they do not contribute like us to the political system, I don't believe that they should receive political rights.
Meaning like need to do military or national service?
Choice from that, yeah. Either military service, either national service in their own regions, or service in the police, or something creative that contribute to the general whole, to the general society. And by the way, the same way should be also to Jews, yeah. Charedim should have the same thing. Smolanim should have the same thing. Settlers should have the same thing. And therefore, we're going to accept. Wait a second, please. It's an important idea. Therefore, I believe we will accept also a better society and a better political system, that those that affect the future politically are those that contribute to the system politically. With no discrimination.
It's interesting. So far, and I imagine we'll dig deeper and find some differences, but so far we're pretty damn close to a far left-wing position on what the land should look like.
Yeah, but I believe that the rule and the structure should maintain Jewish rule forever.
So let's get into that. So what does that mean, Jewish rule forever? So there can't be a Palestinian prime minister?
Prime minister, yes. President, no.
Okay.
And president, by the way, is going to be someone that have authority, not like the president of today. It's more similar to what the Torah describes regarding the role of the head of the state.
So, okay, who ultimately runs the country? Would it still be the prime minister?
No, the president, but it's going to be a combination of several institutions, the way I see it, even though it's a very futuristic conversation. It's going to be the president institution. It's going to be the government. It's going to be the Knesset or the parliament. And it's going to be the Supreme Court. And it's going to be a new system, which is the Canton Regional Consulate.
So it'll be a federation.
It will be I believe it should be a federation that also give representation and power to regional actors that represent regional interest in our land, not political interest, regional interest. What is relevant for, let's say, the Hebron area is not the same what is relevant to the Tel Aviv area, right? So they need to take care of different interests in different regions. By the way, also based on different cultures and different social structures. Like Hebron is much more conservative. Tel Aviv is much more liberal. Jerusalem is its own unique thing. Or Gush Etzion, which is more Jewish, national, religious, right?
Okay. Do you think that Palestinians would buy into such a solution in mass? It seems like it does solve a lot of the problems, that there's, for the most part, equality. The president position, maybe they could get over that, but considering they're still living in a Jewish state with Jewish symbolism, right, you'd want to keep the symbolism the same.
I mean, the symbols are not the most important thing. What's important is the structure of the state, the laws of the state, the values of the state, especially the destiny of the state. What is the essence of a Jewish state in Israel? What is it supposed to manifest in the end of the day?
So what is it supposed to
It's
manifest?
supposed to manifest what the vision of the prophets of Israel say in the Torah. Do you know the vision of the prophets?
No,
Open the Torah.
it's too long.
It's not too long. Read my book. It's very, very clear there.
I'll read it.
I mean,
But what?
regarding what our prophets foresaw about what's going to be in the future, it's very important for us to understand as Jews that that vision is not separated from our politics. And by the way, this is something that we should learn from the Muslims, because the Muslims treat their Quran the same way. They do not differentiate between their religion and day-to-day politics, and even the vision where they lead, where they go.
Okay, but let's talk in actual, like, tangible terms. Like, what is that at? What? Because I'm trying to think the likelihood of Palestinians agreeing to such a solution. Because you gave three options: leave, fight, or be equal citizens with us. Well, almost equal citizens. Now, they're not going to leave, but they very well may fight. So if the solution you're proposing inspires them to continue fighting, then it's not a good solution, in my opinion.
Okay, so they fight, but they, if they actually believe in, the words of the prophets, that everything is the will of Allah, it's important for them to realize that they will not defeat us in this land. They're going to suffer, but if they suffer, they shouldn't complain. They have also other options to a good life.
Complaining is a great PR tool. Why wouldn't they complain?
For sure, but they can choose. It's a freedom of choice. The way I see it, they can choose a different way that create a complete and holistic picture. And they can choose also fight like they do now. But what I say, if you choose the wrong way and you suffer, don't complain. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that we should, like it is today, to maintain the status quo. By the way, we also, are not saints in Israel. I mean, politically, because we never offered them any solution that includes them, right? Always the solution was separation, two-state solution. By the way, do you think that Palestinians will feel victory in their narrative only in 20% state in the West?
No, I think a case could be made that what you're suggesting might even be more popular than a two-state solution. It's very hard for me. The one thing that I'm stuck on is accepting symbolism of your enemy nation. And yeah, it's just symbolism, but that's important to people. It's almost, I'm going to give maybe an offensive example, but it's one that we Jews can understand. It's almost like after the Holocaust, the Nazis kept, the swastika remained the flag of Germany, and we were just told to accept that.
Let me ask you something.
Would we accept that?
Let me ask you something. The Star of David. Okay, David. Who is David in Islam and also for the Palestinians?
Yeah, but
no. Don't avoid.
I'm not avoiding. I'll address it head on. It's
wait. Who is David? David is a prophet. He's a righteous man. He's a native of Palestine. And David, by the way, if he was indeed a king here that ruled, by the way, I ask the Muslims, was David a Muslim or a Jew? They will say that he was a Muslim. You know that?
Yeah, they believe that.
All the prophets before.
Well,
wait.
Yeah.
Let me get that. It's important.
Okay.
Then I ask him another question. Was King David, judge his people according to the Quran or according to the Torah? They cannot say according to the Quran because the Quran came only at the 7th century.
Right.
So indeed, we can find legitimacy for Jewish rule because David judged his people according to the Torah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now that depends from them, unfortunately, anti-Zionist Muslims, to say that our Torah is corrupted. If they will not say that our Torah is corrupted, and it's not corrupted, we can accept the Jewish rule here, also legitimate in Islam. You understand what I'm saying? So therefore I'm saying the Star of David and the figure of David should be also something which is Palestinian from Palestine.
I
Understand what I'm
recognize
saying?
that, but you can't.
Why can't the Palestinian say?
Let me.
Why can't the Palestinian say? And I'm finished.
Yeah.
David Melech Israel Chai v'Kayam. Why not?
Maybe they could, but currently the Jewish star, or the Star of David, to them it represents the symbol of Israel, a flag that they find deeply offensive, deeply traumatizing. It's the symbol of their oppressor. The same way the swastika is like a peaceful Hindu symbol. We still don't view it as a peaceful Hindu symbol. It still carries the weight and the pain of the Holocaust. So sure, yeah, if they accept the Star of David because King David is a Muslim prophet or an Islamic prophet, great. I don't object to that. I'm just trying to exist in reality and think what the likelihood of them accepting a symbol that right now is the symbol of their enemy, that they have, the reaction they have to the it's not rational, it's deep and visceral, it's emotional, but you can't negate that. It's very real.
I'm not negating what you said, but I'm saying that before any political move on the ground can happen, there must be a deep educational, theological process from both sides, by the way. And in that, I will also add that before the first Palestinian would enter Israel's doors to be citizen or resident, think about the following, the Palestinian narrative of today, okay? Very much based on resistance, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Resistance to us, to the return to Zion, to the Jewish rule here, to the Jewish story, to the Torah, etc., etc., okay? And I'm generalizing, but obviously most Palestinians do believe in that narrative of resistance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the question is, what will happen in the day that they will have from their own, that it will Be'ezrat Hashem come from them, and strong Muslim will teach them about a different way to interpret their own Quran regarding us, and the Jewish story of their land will be part of the Palestinian story. You know what happened the day after? There's no more Palestinian identity like it is today. Because without resistance to us, the Palestinian identity as it is today is not existing.
Yeah,
therefore, any solution that's going to mean peace, living together here, whether even it's going to be one state which is not going to be Israel, okay? For them to abandon the element of resistance is to abandon something deep in their identity. So they will have to face a certain identity crisis before.
Yeah, I don't think it would play out like that. Identities change all the time from year to year, depending on, again, cultural and environmental changes. It's not like there will be peace and then suddenly there's gonna. I don't know if it's gonna be felt like an identity crisis. I think there'll just be a natural evolution and progression of their identity into something a little different than what it is today. The same way Jewish identity has changed because of Zionism.
What do you mean it's changed?
Well, we had to, part of the success of Zionism was taking the diaspora, which were Jews from all over the world who were speaking different languages, culturally at this point quite different, and unifying them under one movement where we are all a nation working to reestablish a homeland. That was a shift in Jewish identity.
Right, but before we went to exile, we were one nation.
I understand, but again, the thousands of years passed, so identity is constantly changing. I don't know if it'll be felt like an identity crisis. I do think once you no longer have a common enemy, there's infighting. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's some level of increase in infighting.
Or Adar, maybe if both them and us will recruit to fulfill a bigger mission, a bigger story, a bigger vision, a bigger inspiration, which is bigger than us and them, as envisioned in the vision of the prophets of Israel, which means to create from Jerusalem peace that will affect and influence the whole world,
Mm-hmm.
and the end of the wars in the world, which both you and I agree, it's very naive to think like this, right? That it's going to be end to the wars in the world, right?
For sure, we still have some our work cut
But
out
maybe
for us.
this is our mission. Maybe I'm just wondering. Maybe this is our mission. Maybe the reason that we back here, and the reason that they stayed here. And I'm thinking in my head as a rabbi, quote unquote.
Mhm.
Yeah. Maybe there is a reason from Hashem, from God, that we came back and they stayed here, and that all of this conflict and all of the negative attention that is being radiated unproportionally, by the way, at our land and at our people, both our people here, at this moment in time, maybe this emotional energy one day will be elevated to something good.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. We got our work cut out for us, but
for that, Adar, this process will not begin from the Palestinians because they do not know the Jewish story like we do. It's something that I believe that the Jewish people themselves before that should have agreement and consensus regarding what we need to radiate on them. Because anyway, it will not go politically without
right,
at
you're
least
saying
70% of the Jewish people in Israel
right, some
supporting something like
buy-in
this.
from our part. Okay, let's do. We got a lot of questions coming in. Let's see. So for whoever wants to join the Discord, ask questions. I'm going to drop a link, but there's one in my bio if you're watching this on Twitter, and one in the description on YouTube. I dropped the link in chat. Elias, what are you asking? You're having CAPTCHA issues? Is there an issue? There shouldn't be. You should be able to get through. So I'm not sure what's going on. So Mark, you're saying so his name is not Dan, his name is Inon. Dan Kehati is his name. Hey Dan. I feel like that could be your American name.
Dan is a Hebrew name, by the way.
Oh yeah, Daniel. Yeah, that's true. Why is Dan not a black hat Haredi? My belief is that is the authority on all things Judaism.
Ooh.
Which is interesting because you do have Zionist Haredim and anti-Zionist Haredim. So, Mark, there's a lot of diversity of opinion even in the Haredi world. It's true they're very much people of the book. A lot of the other religious Jews have stronger ideologies that are non-religious, like Jewish nationalists. That they are religious Jews, but their nationalism is very, very present. Haredim are much less nationalist, much more Jewish. So I get what you're saying, but there's vast diversity. So who is the authority there?
What's the guy's name?
Mark.
Mark, I want to tell you, black hat is not the only black thing that I have. Shabi, bo, Kerev Tov. Yes, I have a black Cocker Spaniel. No, it's not what you think. A black Cocker Spaniel, a dog. That's what I'm saying. Not saying dirty things here. Right? We keep good language, Adar, clean language. Adar doesn't.
No. We could curse. No, you could curse.
No, it was a stupid joke. You know?
Anyway, was it racist?
Maybe not racist at all. But anyway.
What's his
we
views on
the? We can cut it in the editing, I hope. Anyway, yeah. Kerev Tov Shabi. Mi Hamud.
Do you want to start bringing people on for audience questions?
Yeah. I think it will be very interesting.
So, wait, MB, why are you asking what's his views on the Holocaust? Does he think that was deserved? Why? Did he say that Palestinians deserved some atrocity or something?
I need to think about the cynical answer to this question.
I have my views on the Holocaust were not good, right? I think that's one way to sum it up. Pretty damn bad. Problematic as fuck. Noreen, yeah, the floor's yours. Oh, Noreen, you're gone, but I was going to let you... Yeah, Noreen, you're invited on.
First of all, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, all of the people right here. I just had this, I think I asked Adar, I asked you this question yesterday as well. I want to ask this question to like other people who have joined today. Am I audible, by the way? Just asking.
What?
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yeah. There's a little bit of static coming in, but we do hear you.
Actually, the weather is quite bad at my place right now. So like, yeah. So my question was yesterday was like, actually this was the other guy and you were like having a back and forth conversation, so it kind of missed out. So like, to this question, like, how do you see the post-war solution after, let's say, the war ends, and suppose we are, we are taking this question of establishing or recognizing a Palestinian state. So how do you think that do you think a Palestinian state should be recognized before establishing?
But he, but Noreen,
Noreen,
I don't know if that's relevant because Inon doesn't support two states. He doesn't support a Palestinian state.
I don't support. I reject wholeheartedly.
As you just heard. So.
Okay. So then I have another question to to him. Like, so if let's say suppose he's in for a one-state solution.
Yeah, one state, one Jewish state from the river to the sea, but where Palestinians will have equal rights for the most part. Equal for everything, from what I understand, except being president.
But then Adar, the question arises the fact that, first of all, like after the war, let's do a thought experiment right now. Like, let's say suppose Netanyahu, like, I don't think that he will be successful in ethnically cleansing like 2 million like people from Gaza. Like that's totally out of the option. Let's say suppose in a future reality, like Netanyahu like occupies both the West Bank and the Gaza, right? And approximately we have like 2 million Palestinians right now in Israel. Let's say suppose we add 2 million from Gaza and like 2 million from West Bank, and then we see a situation where Jews might not have the demographic advantage. So I mean, how does is like the other person is like comfortable, because right now Israel is stabilized, or like this is kind of like my personal opinion, like demography for any society matters, like it does matter. Like take the example of Lebanon. Around like 50s, like or 1960s, it was probably 60-40 Christian and 40% kind of like Muslim. And as soon as the exodus of Palestinians started happening in Lebanon, we could see like many chaos and massacres started happening, which ultimately resulted in a 15-year civil war. So I mean, if Jews if he's talking in for like a one-state solution, Jews might not have the demographic advantage. So how is he like? What's opinion on that? Like on
okay, I get it. What is your thought on the demographic? Because the reason why, support for two states in Israeli society generally comes from a place of recognizing these demographic challenges and understanding that separation very well may be best. Those who support one state generally are not calling for one state and for it to be equal for all people. They either want Palestinians to not have the same rights or for them to need to leave. So this position is very much a minority position currently, but it is framed in a way that it is framed speaking to the Israeli right. That's why I actually find this to be interesting and relevant, because the country seems to be heading towards a one-state reality. So in a one-state reality, what Inon's describing is much preferable to an apartheid system, right? Now, I still have skepticism of if Palestinians would be open to such an idea, but let's talk for a moment about would Israelis be open to such an idea? That's his question. That there's a demographic issue. You could have a Palestinian prime minister. You could have a situation where Palestinians are 50% of the military.
Again, we will not include in our system enemies. We will not. It simply will not happen. There's going to be a process that's going to be that both of our people will need to go through before we're going to make political moves. And I don't think that before there's going to be this achievement of, also, by the way, another important thing, loyalty towards us, towards the state of Israel. They will need to pledge loyalty also to us. Yeah. By the way, Muslims, when they have wars between them, and one side is accepting the other's rule, they pledge allegiance for a religious leader character. So why, if they do that between them and themselves, they cannot do it with us? It's called bay'ah in Arabic. And no, we will not accept societies or people that want to undermine under our rule. We can include them as partners with rights and obligations and the same constitution, but it's not going to be their rule. By the way,
so how do you
wait a second. Regarding demography is not the most important element of a Jewish state. Demography is something, by the way, our prophets command us that the non-Jews that are born in our land should be part of the system, as in the book of Ezekiel 47, verses 21 and 22. So we need to also act accordingly, but also they need to respect us. It has to be with mutual respect.
How do you, so essentially it would be the Haredi community, if they don't do national service and if they're not part of the country, they also won't get these national rights. They won't be able to vote. So it's
political rights.
Political rights. How do you measure someone's loyalty to the state?
First, by public appeal, pledge allegiance, for example, a sheikh or a head of a clan. And second, what they do actively to the system, whether it's army service, national service, something unique that's going to be manifested in their own communities could be also something good because it's contributing to the greater good. So it needs to be something with statement, public statement, and also practical action.
Okay. Noreen, does that answer your question? I actually think you could get a fair bit of Israelis to agree to something like this. I think it's possible to build consensus on when it's framed that way. You just need to see sound is cutting out. Turn off the noise cancellation. Hold on one second. Thanks, MB. What's that? Echo cancellation? Is that what I should cut off? Noise suppression, none. I have none. Suppress background noise for your mic. No, I feel like I should crisp that. What crisp is an option? Is my audio better now? Let me know if my audio is better. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Akil, I think that that's an oversimplistic way to understand Zionism. Saying they don't like Palestinians or not white Jews, it's just simply white supremacy. I don't know about that. There's do you know that like most couples today are mixed? They're not Ashkenazi and Sephardi Jews are mixing. The children are more mixed than they are pure. That's just not true. It's not true. You do have call it an Ashkenazi elite that still very much has disproportionate power, but Zionism can be explained as Jewish supremacy much more accurately than it would be white supremacy.
No, I don't think so.
I'm saying much more accurately.
No. Can I answer what is Zionism?
Sure.
Zionism is the revival of Jewish national identity and restoration of our sovereignty in the land of Israel. Wait a second.
Yeah.
The problem with this, with what I described now, because Zionism should be something different. It should be the national movement of the Jewish people to fulfill or to realize the Jewish people's aspirations. And that's a different conversation. What are the Jewish people's aspirations? Now, returning back and reestablishing or restoring our independence, that's part of our aspirations, but it's not all of our aspirations. All of our aspirations come from the Torah, the way that I see it, and I think that most Jews also do see it. Because don't forget that we are here, you and me, as a result of a chain of generations during 2,000 years that kept their commitment to their people, to the land of Israel, and to the Torah, even though you eat pork. But your ancestors did keep the commitment to the Torah.
Right.
That's why you are Jewish today. So if we look at it in a moral, national way, we cannot deny or go against or betray, even I use this harsh word, the aspirations and the dreams and the prayers of our generations, our people's generation for 2,000 years. Now, this question is indeed, what are our next goals? What are our next missions as people? And there are 5 actually. And I verified with a very famous rabbi, who gave me a lot of inspiration, Rabbi Uri Shelki, religious Zionist, by the way. And he agreed. Number 1 is to return. Number 2 is the restoration of our independence. Number 3, which we are stuck nowadays, to unite all of the land under Jewish rule. It also demands to include also the non-Jews and make the character of the state more Jewish and more democratic. So it will be fitting to not only religious Jews, but also secular Jews and also non-Jews. And the 4th is the ingathering of the outcasts of Israel, Nidchei Israel, Jews that lost their connection to their people, that still have Jewish blood, that Jewish people, that we believe that one day they will return.
That's what Rudy's doing.
Maybe, but but I think that when we talk about here, we know for sure that there's a lot of Palestinians with Jewish blood that not long ago lost their connection to the Jewish identity and the Jewish story.
Right.
I ate a lot of maklube with them, by the way. And the 5th goal, and the most important one, to establish the 3rd temple, to make it house of prayer for all nations. And the paradox is that you cannot do that mission without all nations. Without the Muslims, you cannot do it. Without the Palestinians, you cannot do it. And it should be that from this event or this establishment, as it says in Isaiah chapter 4, that's the ultimate goal of Zionism. And they should learn war no more.
Right.
To end the wars in the world.
I guess my take on it, in theory, there's versions of Zionism that are not Jewish supremacist, but a lot of people, the reason they call it Jewish supremacist is because there's very few manifestations of Zionism that in practice don't have some supremacist element. Even your plan, which is equal, for the most part, equal rights, it does have some Jewish supremacist elements.
For sure.
Right. So when people say Zionism is Jewish supremacist, it's not, let's say that's an oversimplification of what Zionism is. I think you gave a more in-depth explanation, but it's hard to disconnect the concept of Jewish supremacy with Zionism because most versions of Zionism have some element of supremacy. So I think that's where it comes from.
But Adar, think about something. Zionism is basically, איך אומרים, אפליה מתקנת.
What's aflaya? Discrimination?
Like fixing discrimination.
Reverse racism?
Yeah, reverse discrimination. I mean, we were discriminated during 2,000 years, basically.
Right, and now we're doing it.
And not that we're doing it, but now we are being, in a way, compensated in a way for being discriminated for many years. I'm not saying that it should be to abolish or treat the Palestinians not in a good way. But yeah, Zionism is something that corrected injustice that was done to us actually 2,000 years ago. Yeah. But also another thing which is very important.
Yeah, but just it created a new injustice.
Yeah,
and,
but we cannot take away the element of the Palestinian resistance, especially anti-Zionist Islam, that since the beginning...
Resistance should absolutely be expected. There's no reason anybody would give away more than half.
Is there really a reason for resistance? If indeed, let's say, okay, let's play what if. Let's say that when we start to come back to our land, in the beginning of the end of the 19th century, by the way, we came back to our land many, many years.
Yeah, my family came in 1812.
Right. And also there were many attempts of Aliyah that failed.
Right.
But the most successful one was indeed Zionism.
Right.
Let's say that in the beginning of Zionism, instead of the Islamic interpretation that abolishes the Jewish story, there would be a different Islamic interpretation that accepts the Jewish story and say, our Jewish brothers, the sons of Ishaq, welcome back. Let's build something together. Let's recognize, like we're supposed to as Muslims, let's recognize the Torah like it's written in our Quran and the covenant that you have with Allah. And let's build here the kingdom of David as you know.
But that wasn't our appeal when we came here.
Huh?
We didn't appeal to Palestinians in that way.
That's also true, by the way.
Yeah, we came in a patronizing attitude saying, this is ours, we're going to build our land here. Nobody would accept that.
Not exactly, by the way. There were attempts of Zionists, by the way.
No.
There were attempts of Zionists like Magnus,
like
Martin Buber.
But it was a minority.
Right.
It was a minority.
But even that minority didn't find any partner even for that plan. So you cannot deny the element of anti-Zionist Islam that began more and more and more to be radiated and increased because of Zionism. And by the way, this is not the only Islamic interpretation what we have now. Actually, when we were in exile, the attempt to abolish the Torah, to claim that the Torah is corrupt, that we are not the children of Israel, blah, 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 wasn't as powerful as it is today because back then, our identity didn't threaten. That's why, even though the words of our prophets that were very known, they were so eager to abolish them because our identity didn't threaten them. And now that we start to come back, and I say it from a theological point of view, and indeed the words of our prophets start to come true, and they feel, wallah, maybe this is threatening our supremacist theology over us, they started to act in an arrogant and prideful way. And until today, they sacrifice for a lie, they suffer, and they pay.
I don't know, describing the response to Zionism as arrogant rather as very natural human response to people coming in mass and claiming.
Hey, if you're a believer in Allah,
their land
you have
for
to
their
believe
own.
in the promise of Allah, not only to your people, but
No,
also to
but
other people.
Palestinians, first of all, as we said, there's many different interpretations of religion. The Palestinian society was for the most part secular.
I don't think so.
These were farmers that just got displaced, kicked off their land, just so one day in the future Jews might move there. This wasn't a peaceful.
Probably not even one Palestinian would be kicked out if we would indeed agree that we're coming back to inherit our land and we can live together and form something together. But that wasn't the mindset.
That was in our mindset.
That wasn't their mindset.
No. So I think we have a huge. Look, no population in the history of the world has ever been okay with mass immigration to a land, especially when that population is saying this is ours. 100% of the time.
Where's the element of justice? Also for our story that they should recognize.
No. That's having a completely inhuman expectation.
Why not? If we come back as something theological that's supposed to be acceptable also to them, to respect it, like they respect their religion. Wait. To respect also their religion, like they should respect ours, which they don't, by the way, most of them. So no wonder why a situation like it is today. If we talk about respect,
let me finish my point. People do not care about justice for those that they don't know, don't respect, and for those who they deem as their enemy. Mass migration of a foreign population, especially when that population is claiming land for their own, that is met with violence 100% of the time, whether they're Muslim, whether they're atheist, Buddhist. No population has ever accepted that. Palestinians acted as every human before them have acted in their rejection of Zionism. We can't say Zionism wasn't successful because they didn't just accept us. It's a completely unrealistic expectation. It's as unrealistic as saying I'm going to go to a black neighborhood and start yelling the N-word, and nobody should beat me up. They should just understand that I just need to release some tension. This is my justice. I know it's a funny example, but like anybody who thinks that that's a realistic expectation to be able to walk in a neighborhood, treat people that way, and not have anything happen, that's not.
But Adar.
Wait, I just want to finish one point. But where I do agree with you is the way that Zionism potentially could have succeeded without violence is if we appealed, if we came saying, building ties with the local population, saying, let's build a nation together. We are long lost brothers and sisters. We came from this land. We share blood. We share some identity. And appeal to them, say, we have connections in the international community. We'll get international recognition. Let's work together. That might have worked, but that's not what happened.
But Adar, it is.
And that's on us.
But Adar, it is how it happened.
It's not.
I'm not taking away responsibility also from us, because indeed we came very westernized, and we didn't really respected the local culture of the Arabs before they called themselves even Palestinians. For sure, I recognize that, but we didn't open violence. When the first Chalutzim, the first pioneers came, they didn't came with weapons. They came, they bought lands legally. By the way, my grandfather was one of them, even though he was from Yemen. And then the local Palestinian leadership declared that the Jews should go back to where they came from. That was in the 1920s. That was
1920s was after decades of...
Let me please. Okay. That was 30 years before 1948. And they declared that the Jews should go back to where they came from. And they even abolished Jews purchasing legally lands. So Jews cannot buy lands here, but Muslims can.
Yeah.
And then they started the riots. They started the violence. By the way, where? In the Western Wall. They said that this is not a Jewish place of prayer. This is Muslim. And we want to usurp what is ours.
But history didn't start in the 1920s.
Of course not. But, but regarding the conflict or the religious conflict, especially in violent ways, it did begin in the 1920s. And I will mention also the Hebron massacre, that, community of Jews that actually weren't Zionists were massacred brutally by the Palestinians. Wait a second, that made us arm, defend ourselves, and then the Haganah and the Palmach.
I'm aware.
And that's actually, let me please finish.
Yeah.
So if we are playing the blame game, who started first, which I agree with you, it's not a constructive way to create, let's say, holistic future, for sure, to argue about the past that none of us will be able to change. But we need to put the facts straight. Also regarding the narrative of the big picture, I didn't take away the responsibility of our people to not consider the local Palestinians and the Arabs when we came. I didn't take that away. We do have responsibility for sure. But we cannot take out from them also responsibility. And unfortunately, Adar, that's why I'm going to finish. A lot of Jews who are in interactions with Palestinians, especially in the peace organizations or what they call the peace industry, because the Palestinians are the weak side, treat Palestinians with infantilized mentality and doesn't demand from them also responsibility and respect and at least the recognition to our story as Jews in order to create something powerful together.
So you mentioned the 1920s, but the 1920s was after decades of immigration with an intention to establish a Jewish homeland on land that's inhabited by other people. And also in the 1910s, we started displacing people already.
Who? 1910s?
In the 1910s, we bought land that was inhabited by other people and we made them homeless. And a lot of that land was not lived on for many years later. The violence didn't come from nowhere. And this isn't saying violence was the right response, but it's a very natural response. So
can you give me a source? I'm being honest.
Yeah. I mean, we could look it up, but that's when the first displacement started in the 1910s.
How could we displace? Well, we didn't even have a sovereignty here.
Well, we were buying land from Ottoman landowners.
Okay.
These were people who were given the land often as gifts. They weren't Palestinian. They weren't from the land. Many have never even been to the land. It was a gift from a wealthy sultan to someone else. The farmers were working and living the land for generations, paying some rent to be able to live there. And then one day, Jews show up and say, "Sorry, you got to go," and then they're homeless.
But they bought it legally, no?
Yeah, but is it legally? But does that mean it's not an injustice? Let me give you an example. And we know law does not equal morality, right? So if we were to say, if the early American colonizers were to get to the Americas, and let's say they were to make a deal with the Cherokee tribe, buying the Cherokee, there's no great example because it's a very unique historical example, but let's say we made a deal with the Cherokee tribe that we're going to buy from them Lenape land. That's legal, but that's not just. That's still, like, at that point, the law does not matter.
Okay, you say justice regarding that, right? Wait. What about our justice to come back to our land and reestablish our
I think we have a right. We had the right to immigrate, but I'm trying
make aliyah. Make aliyah.
Sure, make aliyah. Return home. How about that? We have a right to return home.
I have a commitment, actually.
But we need to understand the dynamic that mass immigration to a land that's inhabited by other people, claiming it for our own, what response is almost certainly going to happen from that. It's imposing on them conditions that will almost certainly lead to violence. And it's like, you see, they're violent, so now we impose more of these same conditions. But the way Zionism manifested is one where violence was a certainty. Jabotinsky understood this very clearly. In the Iron Wall essay, he said, to them we're colonizers. They will respond how people respond to colonizers, with violence. They will not accept us. Jabotinsky had a very clear understanding of this, and for good reason. We have hundreds of historical examples of people responding violently to similar things. So the reason I'm pushing back here is I just think it's the framing views Palestinian reaction to Zionism as irrational and inherently problematic when it's very normal. Now, I don't like the blame game either, but if we do want to look in the past and see what could have been done differently, I don't think it's helpful to say, well, they just should have accepted us. If we wanted a native population to accept mass migration, we would have had to appeal to them in a very different way than we did.
I don't think that you understand what happened. We have different versions, obviously. By the way, I would like to check what you refer to as the
displacement. Yeah, I could. I don't know.
Send me. I would like you to send me the link, at least in I don't know, ChatGPT, Wikipedia, what you rely on, so I can check it myself. Maybe I need to do also homework, but it still doesn't take away from the obligation and commitment we have to come back and inherit our land.
Yeah, again, I think that part is much more defensible. I mean, saying come back and take full sovereignty over the land, I think it's not something that.
Again, I'm not saying that we act without any injustice. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that in order to recognize the injustice to them, they also need to recognize the injustice towards us in order to build something healthy and positive. Even though they are the weak side, it doesn't mean that we do not deserve justice as well.
Right. I think we're in a situation where, when you understand the lives of Jews in Europe prior to Zionism and, up until the end of the Holocaust, it was some of the most horrific stories you could imagine, some of the worst oppression written in history, if you look at the pogroms and what was done to us. So through that oppression to be born, call it an idealist radical movement of reestablishing a homeland on our ancestral land, I think if we put ourselves in the shoes of those oppressed European Jews, we can understand that desire for sure. But that doesn't mean that the native population will accept us. So there's a clash of destinies, and the way we did it is not one that we should expect them to be okay with, and we still haven't really put in the work for them to accept us. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about you. With all our disagreements, you recognize that we need to put in the work, that Palestinians aren't just going to accept us, that it actually requires, an effort, peace building, reconciliation, learning from one another. So I'd say that's probably one of our greatest areas of common ground, and that you're not into the whole demonizing other people. You're not like a hateful. You're not.
I mean, I cannot hate Palestinians when my best friend, who's like my brother, is a Palestinian.
John?
Yeah.
Yeah. Him. So Inon's been on the channel. I think the first live stream I ever did was with you.
I was actually, but it was with Wani Edri.
Right. Okay, so that's a cool.
Remember when there was a fire alarm?
Yeah.
And we couldn't actually hear it.
I want to try to pull that up. For those who don't know, the first live stream ever, this was during COVID. That's what inspired me to start live streaming. It was Inon and Ronnie Edry. Is Ronnie still active, or did he get tired of activism?
I think he retired.
He retired. Okay. He started the page Israel Loves.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
Great guy. I want to try to. I'll drop it in chat if anybody wants to see it. But yeah, we started it, and your fire alarm kept going off.
It was during COVID.
Yeah. Let's try to find it. Let's see. Yeah, the Great Debate #1. Wow.
Yeah.
April 23rd, 2020.
Wow, 5 years ago.
Should we do a screen share real quick?
Yeah.
Okay.
More than 5 years ago.
Yeah. This one, yeah.
Wow. Same picture, Adar.
What? Where?
Here, behind you.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Can I hit that vape?
Huh?
Can I hit that vape?
Yeah, you have also here.
There's a vape collection. I do not endorse these products because they are toxic and highly addictive.
But you will die slowly than if you will smoke cigarettes.
Probably true, but everything in moderation. There's a tremendous health benefit to not. Hey, doggy. There's a tremendous health benefit to not taking life too seriously. So I think an occasional hit of the vape is probably net positive for your health because it speaks to a certain way of life.
I think we should wrap it up and start to get going.
Shit, I just noticed I'm 6 minutes late for a call.
How long are we talking already?
Already an hour. Okay, we do need to wrap this up. I'm late to a call. We'll just show the intro real quick because it's probably hilarious. Okay, let's. I didn't even realize it went live, you see? Damn, I put on some. We're live. Okay.
That was your first sentence till today.
This is hilarious. Oh shit. We're not even seeing the right thing. Sorry guys. Whatever. I don't have time for this. We could review old streams at some other point. Okay, guys, we gotta wrap this up. For those watching this, we're gonna continue a conversation on Discord for whoever wants to join. I'll drop a link. I do need to run. I have a call, but this was fun. For those who want to get in touch with Inon, I put a description to his Instagram, his book, Shma Ishamael. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll probably do another stream in a few days. I'll update you all. Much love from, actually, let's show them where we are. Much love from Jerusalem.
Yeah.
I rarely come to the holy city because I'm not so holy. But look at that view. לא רואים את הכותל מכאן, נכון?
הר הבית רואים.
הר הבית רואים? Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, Al-Quds. Beautiful, huh? Come on in, doggy. Anyways, with that, signing off. Much love from Jerusalem. See y'all soon.